Good day, everyone. Um, Today we will be talking about the different joints of the upper extremities. That includes our, let's include sternoclavicular joint, the acromioclavicular joint, and of course our obvious joints here. We have the shoulders, the elbow, the wrist, and the different joints of the hands. So let's start with the sternoclavicular joint. The sternoclavicular joint is the joint that connects your sternum and your clavicle in front. So what type of joint is it? It is saddle type of joint. Saddle. While your acromioclavicular joint, that is the connection of your acromion and your clavicle here, that is a plane type of joint. That is a plane type of joint. Now, the one of the biggest joints of the body here is the shoulder. The shoulder. The shoulder is a synovial type of joint that belongs to ball and socket. The shoulder is made up of the glenoid cavity and the head of the humerus. So that is our shoulder. Next, we have the elbow. Here, this is the elbow. The elbow is a compound synovial type of joint that belongs to hinge type of joint. The elbow is made up of or interconnects the distal humerus and the proximal radio-ulna. The proximal radio-ulna and the humerus. So that is our elbow. Actually, the elbow is a compound type 1 because that is made up of 3 joints. That includes humero-ulnar joint, the humero-ulnar, the humeroradial, and the proximal radio-ulnar joint. Again, the humero-ulnar, the humeroradial joint, and the radio-ulnar joint. All in all, that is called again as the compound synovial hinge type joint, which is the elbow. By the way, the radio-ulnar joint is of 2 types, the proximal radio-ulnar and the proximal, and we have the distal radio-ulnar joint. Both of them are called as pivot type of joints. They are pivot type of joints. Yes, they are. By the way, it's only proximal radio-ulnar that is part of the elbow, not the distal one. What's the difference between the proximal and the distal radio-ulnar joint? The proximal radio-ulnar joint is a connection between the head of the radius and the radial notch of the ulna. Remember, the radial notch is located in the ulna, and what connects to it is the head of the radius. Compared to the distal head of ulna, which interconnects the distal interconnects the ulnar notch, the ulnar notch of the radius and the head of the ulna. So they're opposite, right? They're opposite. So that is our proximal radio-ulnar and the distal radio-ulnar. And remember, it's only proximal radio-ulnar which is part of the elbow joint. So what is again the type of joint for our elbow? That is hinge type compound synovial joint. Yes, very good. Next, we have here the next joint, the joint in here. Here, what do you call this joint? That joint is called here. Yes. that is called as our wrist. Or medically, that is called as our radiocarpal joint. The radiocarpal joint is a condyloid type joint. Again, that is a condyloid type joint. The radiocarpal joint is a condyloid type joint. Yes. Other joint we have here the metacarpophalangeal. Metacarpophalangeal here. The metacarpophalangeal joint. The metacarpophalangeal joint is a biaxial ball and socket joint. If that is in the fingers. If that is on the thumb, that is uniaxial hinge joint. Again, for the metacarpophalangeal, it is biaxial ball and socket for the fingers and uniaxial hinge for the thumb. For the proximal interphalangeal, here, the proximal interphalangeal here. That's the proximal interphalangeal. For the fingers, that is uniaxial hinge. While for the distal one, that is for the fingers, that is uniaxial hinge still. Both proximal and distal are both uniaxial hinge. But for the thumb, yes, same. For the interphalangeal for the thumb, that is also interphalangeal. Okay? Interphalangeal thumb, uniaxial hinge. Yes, that is uniaxial hinge. For the intercarpal, so where is our intercarpal here? The intercarpal meaning within the carpal. So not by size but at the center. So this is our intercarpal here inside. The intercarpal is a plain type of joint. Again, that is plain type of joint. How about for the carpometacarpal? Here, this is our carpometacarpal. Next to that is carpal and metacarpal. So in between that joint is your carpometacarpal joint. That is also a plain type of joint. Again, that is plain type of joint. Okay? That is a plain type of joint. So that would be our joints for the upper extremities. But one last thing, we have also intermetacarpal joint. The intermetacarpal joint is a joint that is located in between metacarpals here at the side. This is a metacarpal. This is a metacarpal. This is a metacarpal. This is metacarpal. And here in between that is intermetacarpal. That is also a plain type of joint. So intercarpal, carpometacarpal, and intermetacarpal are all plain type of joints. So those are our joints of the upper extremities.